Hello, Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance of Cincinnati, Ohio. We are a couple doors north of the original Montgomery Inn and across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. Some people have asked me what happened to them, so here they are. They're still there. I do work on Facebook, Instagram, and X, do a monthly blog, which has been delightfully filled by some of the comments that I receive from YouTube subscribers. Some great articles, so do enjoy them. And we have a website, audibleelegance.com, where we have a used or orphanage section and a new store. So if you're looking for some goods and you wish to support us either by subscribing or purchasing from us, take a look there. We are permitted to sell a number of the items nationally. We don't sell internationally, sorry. That interferes with distributions, and that's not a good thing. If you have a local dealer, please support them. You know, if they have the same product, buy from them. We're not a bid and buy type operation to gut small operations, no. And it does bother me that I hear people comment, I wish we had a local store, but we don't anymore. And well, if they don't get supported, that's why they're not there. Today I'm going to talk about AC outlets again, but from an entirely different angle, because the prior video I talked about specialty AC outlets, my preference for basically using hospital grade outlets, and which raises another interesting question. But today I want to talk about outlets in general. Before I get there though, I'm going to go back to the use of hospital grade outlets. And what makes this a little difficult now is that many jurisdictions require tamper-proof electrical outlets. In other words, they'll have a little slide over it to keep small children from sticking something in it and electrocuting themselves. And the code has been so strong that now when they build new houses, you don't even find outlets on islands on the side, so to speak, in the kitchens. And because they don't meet the height requirement. So you be careful if you're going to use hospital grade receptacles or any specialty receptacle that it's not a code violation, or if you go to sell your property, you're going to have to remove those because they're going to be found to be in violation of the code, particularly on houses built after that code went into effect. I'm sure that there's grandfathering of old systems, so I'm not going to go there. But on newer facilities, be careful about changing out to what you consider to be a superior AC plug. What brought this all up is we had a customer who was having problems with his streamer, and notwithstanding our attempts to deal with it and the manufacturer's attempt to deal with it, he was just plagued with problems. Stop working, stop uploading, all sorts of things. So I got to the point where the manufacturer, which was Belcanto, which is a great company to work with, by the way, said, look, send the units into us, let us inspect the whole thing. We've been over this before. We don't know why you're having this problem, but we'll look at it again. They looked at it again, found absolutely no problem. But they did make a suggestion that he check his AC outlet. And what the customer discovered was that the connections on his AC outlet internally, where you put the wires on, were in fact loose. And this was creating all sorts of little havoc. I would imagine it probably included the ground. And the reason I mention the ground is a lot of digital devices use the ground to set zero for their clock timing. So if there are problems going on there, the device is all over the map. But it turned out that it was his AC outlet with loose connections, and he felt it was probably triggered by how many times he had plugged things into it and unplugged and plugged and unplugged, And this certainly can happen because copper is a soft material and it will compress. So if you're curious about your outlets themselves, certainly hiring an electrician to take a look at it is the safest way of doing it. If you're a DIYer, before you even start screwing with an outlet, put a test device on it and make sure that you flip the breaker that turns it off. And which leads me to another observation, and I'll be right back with something. So thank you for allowing me to do the interruption. I'm holding what you can find in any hardware store. It's basically a AC tester, which allows you to check for correct wiring. In other words, that the neutral and positive are in the proper position on the outlet. It'll check for open grounds. It'll check for a number of different things. And these are $12 or $15. Sometimes you can get them for $8 or $10. Depends upon the quality and what they're able to do, because not all of them test everything. And if you have any question about your audio, This is not a bad thing to have to begin with before you start plugging everything in, knowing that your AC, your outlet is properly wired and ready to go, and that its ground is there, all sorts of things. So I would encourage anybody who's looking to make sure that their electric is fine. Here in the States, it's obviously 3-prong plug. I'm not familiar with what is used overseas for 220, but I'm sure that there's equivalent type units in your country. So that's something I would also have at hand. But if you're going to mess with the outlet, make sure the breaker is turned off. These are very handy for letting that because they'll stop lighting up. And then check the outlet, make sure everything is tight, and then re-secure it properly so it's not touching anything on the sides, particularly in the older style homes where they didn't use Carlon or plastic boxes, but they actually used metal ones. The last thing you want is, an arc going off in your panel box and burning your house down. So that's the reason I'm inclined to say, unless you're really competent, get an electrician and to check all the outlets anyway. So there we are on AC outlets, and those are my thoughts. Thank you.